Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Voice of the Streets. I'm your host, Tori Hayes. We have two very special guests today. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good evening. I am Councilwoman Genell from the city of Albany.
Thanks for having me. I'm Allyssa Victory, candidate for Oakland Mayor 2022.
Yes, so today we're going to get into what they both do, where they're from, how they got into politics, and, you know, a lot of like the campaign stuff they have going on and initiatives that they're excited about this year. So first, so where are you guys from? You can go first.
Well, I am from the great state of Texas.
Nice.
Born in a small town outside of Houston, which is about an hour away. And I moved from Texas to Colorado and somehow migrated over here to California.
Nice, nice. And you?
I'm from Oakland,
Nice.
raised in North Oakland, lived in every district, and still live in Oakland, running for office.
Love that. Perfect. We love to hear it. And what was both your guys' upbringing like? Like, how did you get into politics?
Well, I was raised in North Oakland. I say I'm running to be a public servant, not a politician. And so I really started my service journey with my church. My mother was very involved in middle school and would take me with her to do food distribution, clothing distribution in West Oakland.
Nice.
And that wasn't necessarily the funnest for me, but I understood then that there was a gap in services and in resources in our community. It was mostly people who looked like me and my family who were lined up every weekend, early morning, waiting for the church to open. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I started getting activated and just seeing the need, and really felt that rewarding feeling of being able to serve and help somebody get a meal that day, get some clothes to go to school. And I've continued that still. I serve on a regular basis. We have a lot of folks on the streets and people who are struggling, a lot of people dealing with food insecurity right now in Oakland. And so I'm still committed to that, and that's part of why I'm running for this office.
That's what's up. I like that. And I like how you said you call yourself a public servant, not a politician. I love that.
Absolutely.
That's very cool.
Absolutely.
And
You know, we both have the same type of upbringing. I remember my grandmother was with other women that would rally for public service for the people. It was a small community, and there was an underserved community that I know so well, right? Mm-hmm. You know, people were out of water, they were out of food, and I watched them fundraise to build a community center so we could come and all have a place of peace. And we worked together to help bring the community together by making sure everyone had the basic needs just to get to and from work, to school, in their homes. Everything was right there in our community. So that pushed me to drive forward. I remember when I was in high school sitting in my bed, and it was like the Spirit said, this is what you're going to do. And I was like, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm about to make some money, travel. I'm not doing none of that. And I'm telling you, it came by full circle. And when you know that it's not about you and it's about the people you serve, that's what gives me the fuel to continue to run this race.
Nice. Okay. I like that a lot. And have you guys known each other for a long time? Because you guys are very similar in your mission. Like, I could hear it, you know? So I'm like, they're like this.
Soul sisters who found each other.
Yes.
Last year, we actually went through Emerge California's candidate training, which is for women leaders who are interested in running for office or supporting other candidates. So we were part of the 2020 cohort for Northern California.
Okay, very cool, very cool. And then, so I want to get into you a little bit right now. So you were, when I looked on the website, because, you know, everything I know is from research, claims examiner and risk management. Can you explain what that is exactly?
So let me tell you, I became a claim examiner after my daughter's dad left. She was 2.5 years old, and I was looking for work. And the opportunity opened, and I said, sure, I'll start adjusting claims, which is auto claims, you know, trip and falls, whatever the case may be. I just needed work at that time. But during that time, I was able to put myself back to school, right? I went all the way through undergrad. I went through grad school because I wanted my daughter to have something better. And in hindsight, yeah, it was a good thing. But now it's like I'm in my calling. And so once those doors start opening in that arena, now my daughter is an adult, I think that I'll be able to put the risk side. But the risk management helps me in the current position I'm in, because anything that I can prevent the city from taking risks on, whether it's policy making, whether it's, you know, whatever's going on in the city, I'm always looking in that eye because of that experience.
Okay. Very cool. And then I know you're running for mayor at the end of the year, but do you want to tell us about what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Right now, I work as a civil rights attorney. I work mostly in policing, criminal justice, but I serve 48 out of 58 counties, providing legal policy advice, also supporting community coalitions that are asking for legal policy assistance. I'm also counsel to Communication Workers of America 9415, which is a labor union based here in Oakland, but represents workers throughout the state and into Hawaii. Okay. So I'm very busy doing workers' rights, civil rights, criminal justice on a daily basis in the Bay Area, but also regionally.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I have another question, and I kind of know your answer, even though I'm still going to let you let us know, but then I want you to answer as well after. But I know that you ran into some issues last year when you were, you know, serving as mayor, trying to get your voice heard and, like, get the problems that you think are important to be listened to, and, like, people weren't giving you the respect you feel like you deserved and needed. Can you tell us more about what it's like to be a Black woman in power in a space where there's not a lot of other people that look like you?
Interesting question. Thank you for asking that. You know, some would call it imposter syndrome. And that question was posed to me on an interview, you know, have I experienced that? And absolutely not, because I know who I am and I know I belong. So whether I'm Black, that's just a bonus. Yeah. Because the call and the fire that I have for the people and the work that needs to be done, it doesn't even matter what they say. So I did come up against a lot of opposition. And just people like, you're moving too fast, right? We didn't expect someone who had no political experience. You just moved into a place. You were homeless. You lost your job, and you don't know anything about Albany politics. But not only did I show up, I showed out. I was about the business. Yeah. And I kept that in the forefront, right? I made sure that I didn't let the title overcome me to where it was all title driven. So my mission and my purpose is about the people. And I keep reminding my council members that it's about the people we serve, and those are the voices that we should be listening to.
Yeah, that's intense. Yeah, I read the interview that you did last year. I think it was around September. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, it really had me sitting thinking, like, you know, because I'm getting older and I feel like I'm in a more corporate space that, like, it can be rough sometimes, you know, like not being the angry Black woman when you're just trying to express something or show a different idea or, you know, try to get your voice heard.
It's all about maintaining a balance, right? You know, I tell this to myself, I tell this to my daughter, people that I'm mentoring, never let anyone get you out of character. You know, they can say whatever, they can do whatever, but as long as you understand who you are and that balance, when it's time for you to speak, you're going to speak with authority. Yeah. And I let my words be very few, but they're very pointed.
I like that. And then you, ma'am?
Love Black power. Yes.
Yes.
Black history, Black herstory.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a Black woman from Oakland. I'm first in my family to go to college and get a 4-year degree, to go to law school and have a graduate degree. In those spaces, I was, you know, an undergrad, one of 300 Black students on a campus of 30,000. Right, in my law school, we were around 1-2% of our campus. Black lawyers nationally are 3%. So we are often alone and isolated when we elevate to positions of power and leadership, but there's a reason why there's not that many of us there to begin with, right? So there's always going to be some glass ceilings we have to shatter, some people that we have to really either push them out the way or push them to progress. And Black women, we are the backbones of our families, of our democracy. So we're going to continue to lead and to show up for our people, for service. And there's always going to be some resistance to that. Yeah. And I am running to be the first Black woman mayor of Oakland. Yeah. So even in Oakland, where we have such a a rich tradition and culture of Black organizing, of Black leadership, and Black empowerment, we've still never elected a Black woman to this seat.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for
It's
sure.
definitely time.
So do you guys want to talk about your, like what, actually, let me ask you first. Let's talk about back last year, you guys had that meeting about climate change. So were you at that meeting as well?
I was not.
Oh, okay. I'll let you
away.
speak on it too afterwards. But do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
You know, it was something that my team decided to put together because at that moment, you know, we were seeing a lot of things that are transpiring around the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were able to gather like minds, specialists, people that live, breathe climate change, research, and bring a great understanding to the community. So that's what I aim to do. You know, the climate is changing, and you may look at it as, oh, it's weather. No, I'm talking about the climate with the people. And if we don't get ourselves in balance and be in the position to shift as the climate change, we're going to go back repeating the same things, expecting different results. So that's why it's so important for us to elect leaders like myself and Ms. Victory, because we see outside of different lenses. Those lenses that continue to do the same thing, there's no growth. Right? So that climate is changing. Mm-hmm. But as far as the weather and everything that they put on, you know, saying that, you know, because of the global warming and things like that, you know, I believe the people that I brought on that platform was able to give us kind of a space to learn more about how we in our community, I mean in Albany, how we can better keep our community prepared for what's getting ready to come.
Yeah, I think that is important. Like, it's like I feel like there's people that are either talking about climate change or people that are acting like it doesn't exist, you know? Right, so that's really important. And in the Black community, I feel like we rarely have conversations about it for sure. So it's definitely powerful to see you leading something like that.
And that's simply because of lack of knowledge, right? You think about the Black community, they will keep it away from us so we can continue to be ignorant and not understand. And not saying ignorant in a mean way, but again, just lack of knowledge. Yeah. But it is up to us to educate our people. How can we grow? And leaders like myself and Ms. Victory, if we don't reach back and pull forward, we're not going to be able to educate our people, and there's never going to be any growth. And we'll continue to be, oh, I didn't know, right? Yeah. So we need to stop.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And how you said reach back and pull forward. What is there something like that for you that you feel that way about, like how she had climate change?
I mean, really,
there's a lot.
Every issue.
I know.
On every issue. I'll talk just a little about climate change. I mean, climate justice is a part of racial justice, part of economic justice, health justice. In the city of Oakland, I lived in every district. When I lived in District 7, I just moved between District 2. District 2 is around downtown Oakland. Mm-hmm. People in District 7, which is Deep East Oakland, Coliseum area, they have a 10-year less life expectancy than folks who live in downtown Oakland. Right, we're in the same city, few freeway exits apart, right? But there's 10-year less life expectancy for whole communities and neighborhoods. And it's because there are choices that allow toxic, polluting industries to operate next to schools, next to homes, that made it so that there's no greenery, there's no trees, there's no plant life that helps to offset some of the pollution and toxins in the air. All right, we have vegetation issues that cause fire hazards in the hills where people's homes are at risk of being burned. And then all of us have that toxic air to breathe. Mm-hmm. So again, climate change is about building resilient cities to prepare for the change, but also to address the current inequities about exposures in our air, our water, right? Even in West Oakland schools, they found lead in our students' water, our children's water, right? So our kids then have the health consequences, economic consequences of having a toxic environment. So yes, it's about cleaning up the environment, reducing our negative footprint on the earth, but also helping to repair those who are already being disparately impacted and harmed.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you after too. So what are your top 3 things that you think people could do to help with climate change? Like little easy things they could do, you know?
That's hard for me to answer because I'm really about structural change. That I think it's gotten beyond just individual personal choices. Mm-hmm. And we still have to provide structural resources to allow people to make those choices. So, for example, when people say, y'all should stop driving your cars. Well, we need to expand public transit then. Yeah. We need to make public transit free. We need to make sure public transit reaches everyone's neighborhood that is going to depend on it to get to the store, to get to the doctor, to get to their kids, to pick them up from school. Mm-hmm. So again, if we want people to make more individual personal choices that might help our environment, help reduce our impact, I still believe there needs to be the structural overall in our city can help allow people to take those steps better. We can educate and have citywide education. We can have green space. Again, a lot of people want to ride bikes and scooters, and I talk about this often because our kids are just riding in the middle of the street. So we barely have bike lanes or infrastructure. And there's a lot of hazardous driving in Oakland where pedestrians even are getting harmed. So I believe, yes, we can make personal choices, but they still don't have as much impact as the actual government and structural choices we're making. And we can also make it easier for people to step into taking those mitigation efforts. Yeah, that makes sense.
You're absolutely right. I love that answer. And your turn?
In our city, it's mostly the infrastructure. My last measure or memo that I drafted for City Council in December 2021 was simply regarding our pedestrians. Last year, we had 14 vehicle pedestrian encounterments, and that was simply whether they were hit and had broken bones or things like that. But a small city in our size, we should not have 14. We shouldn't have any. And so my goal was, one, we need to educate, but two, we need to have better lighting in areas so that people can see, pedestrians when they're crossing the street. I remember crossing the street right before I wrote that memo, and I was with a lady, a resident, and we stopped at the crosswalk, and she was like, you never know. It's like playing Russian roulette with your life. And so I took that as a elected official. I need to make a difference. And so although, my memo didn't go forward, but the awareness was there. And I'm hopeful that members in our Transportation Commission and other city leaders will be able to come up with a strategic plan on how we can make our infrastructure in our city much better, especially for pedestrians, bicyclists. Like Ms. Victory said, there's tons of bicyclists that are just riding around in the middle of the street. But all it takes is one person to look down at their phone, one person to look to the left or the right, and then there's a life loss.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's talk community service. So what community service efforts are you a part of, or what are some that you want to create if you get in office?
So again, I've been serving for a long time.
I know.
Since I was a child. Some of the community service I've been doing was really anchored with the African Black Coalition. It's the largest Black student network in the state of California, which was founded out of the University of California Black Student Unions around over 10 years ago. And I had been serving as their Black Community Programs Director based out of East Oakland. And so part of that role that I held for several years was providing direct services, food distribution, food collections from the community. We would also do a lot of community-based education with youth groups. We adopted high schools. We would activate youth to intern with us and just understand how to organize and do some of the same things we were doing with them. So that was a big part of my community service over several years. And that led me into serving and teaching in community education. I currently am an instructor at San Quentin State Prison. I teach Black studies there, and we're also trying to support some of the men incarcerated with trying to start a reentry program that will begin inside and help with their reentry once they come out. So I've done, education, activation, but also trying to meet people's basic needs of food and clothing distribution. I do that on a regular basis through my own orgs with ABC, but also there's so many serving organizations in Oakland. We have so many churches, we have so many nonprofits and just grassroots groups. When I'm out here serving in encampments, I always see other groups of people out there doing the same thing. Often when I talk to them, they're just like, we live in the neighborhood. We just cook food and come out here on a regular. There's such a spirit of service across our whole city. I will plug East Oakland Collective, which runs Feed the Hood on a regular basis. Their next one is coming up on February 12th. Nice. If y'all want to serve, they have car caravans, or you can just help pack bags for people to give out. So I'm always looking for opportunities, amplifying orgs that are doing this work, and that's really where my heart still lies, in that type of service.
That is so cool. I love it. Yeah.
My team did a report card on me on my year as mayor, and although I thought I got an A, there were still some people that felt that I was running at a C. So with me, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I got to get that A. And so how do I do that? So there was one particular area that is extremely dear and near to my heart is working with children and the millennials and, you know, our young adults. And they said, I didn't bring anything to the table for them. And so for me, as I'm going back to the playbook to figure out what can I do to bring that particular area of our community together, I'm thinking about hosting a summit. And I think just bringing, you know, possibly you guys to come out and speak, just rallying everyone together, different voices, right? We don't see that many of us in Albany. There's only 2.9%. But we want to make sure that the representation is there and that we're able to have other cultures speak on cultural diversity in our city.
That's powerful.
So if I'm working on that, that's going to take a lot of my time. But I still will reach out to some of our, you know, we don't have a big homeless population like some of the other cities. But we do have some that are sleeping in their cars. As I ride my bike, I'm seeing people sleeping in their cars. People sleeping on the sidewalks, but they're leaving because they're so afraid that they're going to have to move, you know, at certain times. And so those things are important as well. But all in all, I think, well, those two things, they'll keep me busy to 2024.
You guys are so great. My heart is so full. Like, seriously, I'm like, this is amazing. You know, it's just rare that you hear politicians or
Public servants.
I know, I was like, wait, this is wrong. Speak like this about things, you know, like there's just a lot of things you don't hear them talk about, you know, and it's just amazing. I love it. Like I said, my heart is full. Okay, cool. So also when I was looking into your community service, I saw you had some things going on in Denver. How did you get connected with Denver?
So when I moved from Texas, we moved to Denver, Colorado. And like I said, I had the opportunity to move back to Texas or stay, and I decided to stay. And again, as I was working to put myself back to school, there were opportunities at the school, like the battered women's shelter that was in Colorado Springs. And so I linked up with a church, and they were doing things for young adults in Denver. And then we would travel to Colorado Springs and do work there. And so that's really kind of was like, you know what, I think it's about that time for me to run for office. And so that's how that kind of kicked me into gear.
Okay, got it. Okay, so Miss Victory, if you become mayor, what is the first 3 things you want to do? Or that you're just like, oh, like when you think about being mayor, those are the 3 things that follow.
Again, it's hard for me to limit it to 3. I'm going to try.
Okay. You can go 4 or 5.
You know, Oakland, as, you know, we had talked about before we came in really, but, you know, mayor of Oakland is a bit different. Other cities, they have a mayor that might rotate among people who are elected as council. They may not have a mayor at all and just be council and a city manager. Oakland is a strong mayor government, meaning the mayor is elected separately from the city council. The city council is our legislative body who can pass laws and policies, and all of that goes back into the mayor and the city administration to implement. They set the budget. They're in charge of all of our city departments, which in turn serve our city. So the mayor is a strong mayor and is an executive who is able to work independent and able to control a lot of the actual implementation.
Wow.
So it is a very critical seat, very powerful out of all the seats in our government. And I'm losing train of thought of what your actual question was. The 3 things. Okay,
no,
okay.
I'm glad you
I
told
should have
me
started
all
with
that,
1, 2, 3. But my top 3 things are housing, and public safety, and economic justice.
Nice.
And there's a lot that goes into all 3 of those. I'll just briefly talk. But housing, I was homeless in this city. I was homeless as a teenager with my family. I was homeless while I was trying to go to college, homeless when I came back, and was struggling to find a place to stay. And so I've experienced firsthand a lot of the issues that are wrapped up into our housing crisis. Oakland has declared homelessness a local emergency ever since 2018. That declaration, though, gives the mayor special powers, the city administration special powers during an emergency, things to make sure that we can act like it's an emergency and put people into housing fit for human beings, that we can have really innovative and creative ways to house folks on public lands, on vacant and abandoned properties, on hotels that we can commandeer and take over. All of those things are already powers that the mayor has, things that we can negotiate on behalf of the folks on the street. Part of why it's 4 years later after that first declaration and the housing the unhoused numbers have gone up because 70% of them are estimated to be Black, to look just like me. So it's not by accident, it's by design. And I want to put in a design for justice and for basic housing, for social housing, for workforce housing, because even people who have jobs, who have savings, who have good credit, whatever that may mean to y'all, they are not able to afford to buy properties here and can barely afford the rents. Even our commercial properties, our businesses are getting priced out. Their rents are going up 150, 200%. So there has to be a lot of interventions to gain some control to ensure that there is a market of housing for all of the levels of income of Oaklanders that we have, but absolutely emergency policies to address the housing crisis on the streets. Right now we have a tent encampment management policy that's really managing the encampments. We have to stop managing them, and we need to, again, return people to a pathway to permanent housing. With public safety, I'm a criminal justice attorney. So I work every day in police practices, police oversight, police accountability, police budgeting, use of force, and other individual policies. So I've worked with our chief of police. I've worked with our police commission, which is the oversight body, and have a lot of examples of things that we can do to improve our practices and our policies based on what's going on across the state. We also are in an 18-year-old settlement agreement for excessive use of force and racial profiling of our police department that was targeting Black West Oaklanders. We're going into our 18th year of federal monitoring because we've still not complied with every single part of that settlement agreement. Agreement is key because we agreed to do it. It's costing us a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of oversight, stress, and headaches that we have to get us from under. I am the only practicing attorney, policing attorney that is in this race that has a really unique skill and understanding of how to get us out of this legal issue so that we can get back to actually serving people and serving with constitutional policing and equitable services. The last is economic development. And there's a lot of policies that go into that include establishing public banking. So we have public control over where we're investing in our development so that we're able to give loans to our small businesses. We also have council who's right now proposing a progressive business tax. That business tax would, right now we have a flat rate. So no matter how much money your business makes, how large it is, everyone pays the same amount. Progressive means that they'll be tiered and it'll be tied to how much you're actually earning in receipts for your business. And it'll allow us, it's estimated that it'll bring in $34 million. That'll be put back into our small businesses, our Black, brown-owned businesses, immigrant-owned businesses. So we have to have economic policies that center Oakland, Oakland's workforce, and Oakland's residents. I almost out there. Those are my top three issues.
I love it.
There's
I
gonna be
like
a lot
how
of
when I
policies
ask you
connected.
things, you're like, well, I can't just do that. First, we have to do this. You know what I mean? Like, she's breaking it down. I'm like, oh.
That
She's
is your
right.
mayor of
Like,
choice.
yes.
Mayor's a big job, so I'm like, wait, let me try to break it down. We got to set some
I'm
foundations,
saying.
but I'll be ready to hit the ground running day one. Again, I'm already doing service every single day. So I'm trying to ramp it up and take it to the next level as mayor.
I love this. Okay. And then so we spoke a little bit before we started about how you were mayor, but you were too radical. Let's talk a little bit about that. Because I was going to ask you the same question, but you're not technically running for mayor again, or are you? Why or why
you know
not?
What? You know, it's selected, right? I think that I brought the city from a couple of residents. They said you brought hope back to the city, and for me, that made me feel good because it was never about me. I think that if I am selected again, I probably would do things a little bit different, smaller than anything, because when I get passionate about something, that's all I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything else. It's about how do we move this forward. I'm result driven. So, you know, less talk, more work. And I think I came in with a heavy hand because I'm result driven. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. Let's get it done. And so I know people after now, they're saying, you know, government doesn't go that fast. You know, everything is slow, but it should, because that's what we're not moving.
You're like, let's move faster.
Let's move so everyone can feel included. And so my hope maybe 2023, right before my term in, you know, I get another shot at it. But for me, I'm just excited to be at the table. I'm excited to be that different voice and that I'm not doing the same to get along, right?
Yes.
I'm not going alone to get along.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Okay. And then I also wanted to ask you about how, because remember how she was talking about being a mayor in Oakland, you have a lot of power. Is the structure different?
Let me tell you something.
It's very, very, very different.
It is very different because we have a council manager government. So you have 5 city council people, and then the council itself, the 5 members, you pick a mayor and a vice mayor. And then you rotate, right? So we'll just basically say the 3 of us, the 2 of them, and they said they want you to be mayor and myself to be vice mayor. We all take a vote, and that's what it is for the year. And so every year you just rotate and you pick someone else to be mayor. You pick someone else to be vice mayor.
Is that a small town thing?
I would say for the most part, I think some not big cities like San Francisco, Berkeley, or anyone like that.
How long does Oakland stay mayor for? Longer than a year, right?
Yeah, it's a 4-year term that you're elected.
So ours is just a year. So
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. But I believe I ran it like a strong mayor, so that's probably
when you got strong women, it's always going to be a strong mayor.
I'm telling you, because you want to see results, right? We just, I believe that people do not put us in the office just to take photos, just to sit and just talk about what we're going to do. They put us in office because they want to see that change. Yeah. They want to see the work. They want to feel safe and comfortable in the city that they live in, in the country they live in. And we should perform that. We shouldn't just be speaking about it. We should be doing it, right?
Yeah, you guys for sure giving me doer vibes, and like I'm living for it. Like for real.
It's that type of energy we going all year.
It's Black History Month. Just want to say that. Right. Like, yes, you know? Okay, so what is next for you guys? Like this year, like what's the main gist of like 2022 for you? What are you guys doing?
So for me, it's again that report card.
Yes.
I'm cleaning up that report card so I can get an A. But then after that, I'm preparing myself for the next seat, the bigger calling, and I'm gonna leave it right there.
I like that mystery.
And then you leading up to the election, what do you focus on?
I mean, it's going to be victory for Oakland all year. It's going to be getting out voter engagement. We're soon going to be launching our full platform, our first 100 days plan, and making sure we educate people about this election, how critical it's going to be, when it's happening, so they look out for their ballot and that they know victory's on the ballot. And so that's a main focus for this year, but I'm also an elected delegate to the California Democratic Party for our assembly district. Our convention is coming up in March where we decide some state endorsements, so there's a lot of state elections that are going to be happening as well that can affect policies around climate change or housing. But the Democratic Party, one of the reasons why I ran was to really ensure those resources get back into our community, into our people. So I want to really commit to voter education, voter registration, beyond just my race and vote for me for mayor. There's so many other critical elections happening, even with the June primary, that I want to make sure people are at least in a basic position to exercise that right if they have it.
Nice. I'm really excited for both of you guys. Like I saw you have a lot of cool things going on. I want to get involved in what both you guys are doing. It just sounds great. Like I said, I'm here for it. But because it's Black History Month, what is something that you want to leave with young Black adults that are watching this, if they might be interested in working in the field that you guys are in?
That's a very good question. One thing about history is legacy that we leave. We can be the first in everything, but if we're not leaving a legacy for the next generation, basically we were just that first. And so my goal is to prepare that legacy. I spoke earlier about reaching back and pulling up. That's what it's supposed to be as a people, as a strong people, resilient people. We should be preparing the next generation to come in and take over. Oftentimes we stay in these seats for so long, 20, 30 years, because we don't want to move. But why not? You know, we should not just hold the title, right? Not just stay in the seat, but again, preparing. So it's all about legacy. And if you want to do what I'm doing, you have to just get out of your comfort zone. You can't be scared, because this work, I'm gonna tell you're gonna be alone, you know. But for me, and I'm gonna get spiritual real quick. But for me, when I tell you that I'm not alone and I'm rolling with the Most High God, that's who I roll with. Okay. So whatever he says, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not afraid of anybody. When I get on that diocese, you better know them angels is sitting right on my shoulders, and they're going to knock every one of them demons off the table if they come for me. You come for me, we going to come for you. And I'm going to leave it right there. Period.
Now let's be a preacher next. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Go preaching.
I mean, we were on the same wavelength. We took a lot of things I wanted to say, but definitely the principle of Sankofa is so important to young people. Sankofa is the principle of really looking back to move forward, knowing where we come from, to know where we're going. We have to know our history. We have to know ourselves. We have to know all the things we've come from to get here as a people, because there will be folks telling us we don't belong here, we shouldn't be speaking up, that we don't have anything to offer. And if we know who we are, then we're able to shield from those things. We're able to speak back and speak truth to some of those folks in power who want to keep us out of power. And I would also, I have to say, especially for Oakland youth, there's no need to wait for permission or to be a certain age to be able to lead. I was activated as a middle school student to get out here and serve the community. I was activated with my first job in high school with Oakland Youth Together to lead after-school workshops on education equity, our school system funding. And if y'all are paying attention, Oakland right now, we're dealing with threats to close majority black schools, majority black and brown schools, to consolidate them during a pandemic. And a lot of this, all the justifications are around money, are around funding. Our school district for years had been under fiscal oversight from the state and in debt to our state, right? We are in the richest state in the entire country, one of the richest states in the entire world compared to other economies of other countries. And so we have to really think about the attacks that are happening on our children, on our youth, on their ability to thrive and be empowered. And those are moments to be activated. So we want y'all to lead now. We want y'all to speak now. That's part of why I sponsored Oakland Youth Vote, which goes into effect this year, meaning 16 and 17-year-olds can vote in our school board elections. Your school board members determine all of these decisions around school cuts and closures, determine the resources that you all get as students. And so you're now empowered this year, starting November, to decide your school board representatives. So Oakland is one of the first in the whole country to give that voting right power to people under 18. We have to use it, and we have to use it to build youth power, youth education. Again, there's no age that's too young to lead and to want to serve others.
You would know. That is so cool. I've never talked about politics this long before. Absolutely. Wow. It's
politics
amazing.
Is about people.
It's
That's
great.
Right. That's it. You see all the...
You gotta serve.
The things you see all the things in Congress and what's going on. And it's like, to me, it's just you wasting our time.
Usually it's like more depressing. Like this was like, so exciting. Like, yeah, we should do that. But like usually on the news, it's just not fun to watch. I'm like, dang. Yeah. Well, I want to appreciate you guys for coming. This was amazing. I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot. Do you guys have any social media platforms that you want to have people follow you on?
Yes, I do. So I have my Facebook is Genell Gary. My Twitter is Genell Gary. And my website is genellgary.org.
Easy to remember,
that's
right?
And that's with a G, not a J.
Get it right. Mine's is straightforward, victoryforoakland.com. Victory for Oakland on all social media platforms. You can also find us at the hashtag Victory for Oakland.
Nice. And when's the first event that they can link up at? Is there something going on soon?
Oh, yes. There's ongoing events. Yes. There's going to be digital panels that I'm a participant on for Black History Month, continuing through the end of this month. We're going to be having special Zoom meet and greets for teachers and different workers groups. So again, victoryforoakland.com. You can sign up for a mailing list to get notifications about upcoming opportunities and events, or you can see our events list under the events tab.
Amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. And I'm Tori Hayes.
And I'm Councilwoman Genell Gary.
I'm Oakland Mayor candidate Allyssa Victory.
And
Thank y'all for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Tori Hayes. Thanks for watching. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you Bob content. Thanks for watching. See you later.